But if we look back, even before the start of the pandemic, obviously the pandemic was a huge trigger for many disruptions. But pre-pandemic, there were other geopolitical events that were already affecting trade, that were already affecting supply chains. For instance, the US and China trade war, as well as Brexit, the UK's exit from the EU. Those were other geopolitical events that had caused disruptions to globalization and trade. And since the pandemic, we have also seen natural disasters and other man-made events that have caused severe disruptions to our very well-run supply chains pre-COVID. And even today, I think we are still seeing some remnants of the effects of the pandemic, such as the lockdowns in China, as well as a huge imbalance between demand and supply for goods and services over the last couple of years. And with that, actually, you could see from engagements with businesses and with executives that supply chain disruption remains one of the top risks for businesses quarter on quarter. And this is likely to remain the case for the foreseeable future. When I first took on the role of looking at supply chain and logistics within EDB, I was thinking that perhaps, after a year into the pandemic, we will be past all these disruptions and we could return to BAU. But what really has happened is that now we are dealing with business unusual, month on month, quarter on quarter. And this is likely to sustain as we continue to face different kinds of developments around the world. And what that has meant for businesses is that the domain of supply chain and logistics have risen in prominence within companies. And I've taken a few headlines here to show you how this has become forefront and important to many companies. So examples such as toy makers, Mattel and Hasbro, which both have similar business models, both American companies and both of the similar revenue size, their financial performance is very much different because of the way that they have been able to manage their supply chains and manage their logistics. And you can see from also other companies that having a good handle on the supply chain management do affect the financial performance and businesses. So we have really seen supply chain professionals and logistics professionals come to the fore, where many executives in this space have told me that, where in the past, some of these functions were viewed very much as back end or back office, they have moved from back office into boardroom, because now CEOs and C-suite executives are having to consult and incorporate supply chain professionals' inputs within their businesses. And while the challenges have been aplenty, it is a great opportunity for supply chain professionals to make their mark in the business world. And some of the ways that they have been able to contribute is by redesigning some of the strategies and moving away from a just-in-time supply chain strategy to one that will provide more resilience for companies. And here I have a framework adapted from Gartner, which lists a number of strategies that companies have had to consider to make their supply chains more resilient. So supply chain is no longer just about operating, it is also about how you strategize and build in resilience while maintaining business performance. Another aspect that we should not overlook is that beyond resilience, longer-term resilience will come from sustainable supply chains. If you look at the charts I put up here, which is adapted from World Economic Forum's Net Zero Supply Chain Challenge report, you would see that actually, while many companies are very focused on Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions as part of their endeavor to help decarbonize their operations and to make the planet a better place, a lot of the industries that we are familiar with, a bulk of their emissions comes from Scope 3 upstream, which means deeply embedded from their supply chains. So in order to truly decarbonize and hit net zero for many industries, it means that companies will have to look deeply into their supply chains. Supply chain professionals will have to incorporate ESG metrics in their day-to-day operations. And so I think that this is, again, another great opportunity for supply chain or logistics professionals to be able to contribute to a very important issue that all of us will face in the coming years. And from a Singapore perspective, very quickly, I wanted to share that, because of how we have dealt with the pandemic, keeping our ports open 24/7, and how we have been able to be a very good location for companies to manage all these disruptions, we are seeing strong interest from various sectors in managing their regional supply chains from Singapore, be it through them expanding their regional distribution centers and using 3PLs in Singapore to distribute out to their end markets in the region, to establishing supply chain hubs that manages regional planning and sourcing operations, or the establishment of control towers to better organize themselves for those disruptions they see going forward. But what lies ahead with these opportunities are some challenges that Singapore has to overcome. And that means making better use of the resources that we have in Singapore and developing new capabilities. And very quickly, I just wanted to touch on a few aspects of the work that we do. And this may also trigger you to think about how, if you were to consider a career in supply chain and logistics, how it will not be the same as what we assumed to be before. So for instance, in logistics, where we talk about how we can improve warehouse operations, there are more and more instances where 3PLs and warehouses operators would have to consider how do they incorporate technologies and innovation to improve operations on the shop floor. And this is very clear for Singapore because we do have a tight labor market. It's not so easy to always find warehouse operators. And so the use of such technologies would actually help improve productivity and reduce reliance on labor. At the same time, I think as we move into a more B2C model for some companies, when they go online, e-commerce becomes more of a significant proportion of one's revenues. The way that the operations have to be done at the warehouses will transform, and very much you really need to use more technology to overcome the volume and scale challenge. On the other hand, I think when we talk about supply chain management, as I mentioned, there has been a great interest from companies to develop supply chain management talent for the future, because from a functional role that we have seen, very specialized, very sometimes siloed, supply chain management talent now have to think about the overall impact they have on businesses, and also to undertake new roles in the days ahead. So what we have done at EDB is to work with the industry to better understand the skills needs within companies with respect to supply chain management roles, and how we can help companies develop talent, how we can work with individuals to upskill and reskill for that future. And another aspect of supply chain management transformation will come in the form of the use of technology to improve visibility within supply chains, to help companies build and develop more agile supply chains. And here, just listing one example, one of the research institutes in Singapore, the ARTC, has a partnership with McKinsey, where they have developed a supply chain control tower lab, which will provide companies the opportunity to test and showcase and demonstrate the use of some new software solutions to improve supply chain operations. So in a nutshell, I think I want to conclude by saying that it is an exciting period to be in supply chain and logistics. Plenty of challenges, but also great opportunity for supply chain professionals to be in the spotlight, to influence and impact the business. And as with those challenges, huge transformations will be required within supply chain operations, within logistics operations, and technology as well as talent development will be key to this transformation, which I think brings us very nicely into the next segment later on after I take your questions. on how the master's program here can equip you with the skills and knowledge that you need for that very exciting future if you choose to embark on supply chain and logistics. So thank you for your time, and I welcome any questions from the floor. So feel free to type in the chat, or if you are comfortable, just unmute yourself and raise the questions. Thank you. Perhaps while we give everyone a...
Hi, Samuel here.
Samuel, yes. You have a question, Samuel?
Yes, hi. Thank you for the informative session. I think what I would like to understand is, because supply chain and logistics is a pretty huge, I think a very, very big animal to digest. So how would taking up the program equip, let's say myself as an individual, to be ready for the organization? Or I would actually have to start from scratch, from an entry level kind of a role, and begin to understand the industry better?
Yeah, I think part of that question will be best answered later on by Prof. Tan on the, the elements of the program. But maybe just for me to give a perspective from industry, you are right that actually supply chain management is a very broad function and domain. You can be talking about a planning function, a procurement or sourcing function, something more related to manufacturing, or more specialized in logistics. And that, plan, source, make, deliver is actually the whole spectrum of supply chain management. And at the same time, if you layer on the concept of like having to have some experience within an industry or vertical, then you could be talking about quite a few dimensions. But what I've seen from some of the supply chain leaders that I've engaged with locally, some of them have come from a manufacturing background or from an engineering background. And as part of their company's rotations, they have actually managed to pivot from a manufacturing or engineering role into a supply chain role. And they have had to learn on the job for that supply chain role subsequently. And I think perhaps the supply chain management program here that NUS is running could help bridge some of those gaps. So I think that's one perspective. The other perspective is that if you are already applying your trade in a particular sector and industry, then within FMCG or within industrials or within pharmaceuticals, all of these different products producing sectors, if you have some experience within the industry and you complement it with new knowledge picked up at the NUS program, I think that would also enable you to marry some of the supply chain knowledge you are picking up in the university with some of the prior industry knowledge and experience that you already have.
Yeah, thank you, Wai-Chen. Maybe let me just add on. Instead of holding the question, I think it's a very nice question. All right, just want to add a little bit more. The master program, I will show you the numbers later. We have been, the program has been running since 2011, and most of the students come in with technical background, right? Because one of the admission criteria is a bachelor's degree in engineering, and we have both full-time and part-time students. Some of them are already in the job dealing with some of the supply chain functions, like what Wai-Chen mentioned. And a lot of them actually don't have the kind of formal education in supply chain management. They just go into the job and then they get rotated and posted into, and they come to the program to have a deeper understanding of their role, right? And the program also go into some of the theoretical part about the modeling, the analytics, right? And how to solve problems. And some of the students actually bring this back to their work, all right? In fact, most of the students are not totally green about this area. They already have some exposure. Maybe some of them, in their previous job, have colleagues, or they have dealing with colleagues dealing with this, and sometimes they don't quite understand why, you know, a certain thing is it. And so that's what the program helps them enrich them in their job. Okay, we actually are quite tight on time. All right, so you have another question, then we answer one more, and then after that we go to the next part. Okay, there's a question in chat. All right, talking about technology. Yeah, yes. Some of the module we talk about is about management, about strategy, right? Yes, it does involve some of the module will cover some of this technology. In fact, in one of the module, in fact, just the first module that you do, our executive director of the Logistics Institute will cover a lot of this about thinking and practice of supply chain management. And control tower is actually one of the, to us now is considered one of the basic topics that will be covered, right? So as what Wai Chen mentioned about, right, control tower. Now, what we cover is in the course, but when you go out and then when you implement, then you really need to get the technology people to come in. But here we don't, the program doesn't teach you the, you know, the nitty-gritty about the technology, but to teach you to be aware of the technology, the issue to consider, to implement the technology. Actually, thanks to Wei Chen, I think the interest is in the program. So maybe normally we have a 1 whole hour session to talk about the program, but for this one, it's always very limited. So let me go into it and just give you some of the key points that is about the program. Yeah. So allow me to share my slide.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So the Master of Science in Supply Chain Management program, as I mentioned earlier, is jointly hosted by 3 departments. All right. And it caters for both full-time and part-time. Yeah? And so we have the focus is here. You can see here, this slide is very busy, right? But the main one is in the middle. We focus on logistics and supply chain practice. And it comes from the, as you can see, there are 3 departments, right? Analytics, OR, it is actually a lot come from the management school, my department. My department is analytics and operations. System view, how to manage things, the supply chain as a system, not individual silo, all right? So that comes from system engineering and management kind of view. And the practice part is where the Logistics Institute connect with industry. I just want to highlight one of the key elements about this program is that one of the core module is a industry research module where the student actually will have to spend 1 semester working on a real industry problem, okay, to apply the knowledge that you learn to in solving a particular problem. All right. So this is very busy. There are, you can see we involve the top academics, the professors from the 2 different departments, and we also get industry speakers, you know, to come in and share their experience. And it's flexible. So there are 3 core modules, 1 core project, and the rest is elective depending on what your interests are. And we do sometimes visit, right, some of the companies, some of the other institutes. And we regularly, a few years, we will review our curriculum. And there's one component where we expose students to how other overseas people, how they practice, right? We have a partner university in Austria, and in the university, it's not very high rank academically, but they have a very close connection with industry. And we have a 2-week summer school there, where you're actually immersed into visiting the company, get the data from the company, listen to the senior executives presenting the problem, and then you work in teams in coming up with a proposed solution to the company. And it's integrated in the sense we have engineering, we have business, and we have practice. Yeah. And so some of you may be interested to know, we start in 2011, and you can see the number, the number of applicants, right? This tall bar is the number of applicants that are going up. The acceptance rate are more or less fairly flat. So you can see the overall, the enrollment is gradually increasing. So this is the curriculum. As you can see over here, there are 3 core, right? I mentioned earlier, the first core actually is supply chain thinking and practice, where we try to bring in those people who don't have too much exposure to supply chain or thinking practice to come in and right. And then we have another core is supply chain coordination and risk management. So this one involves a kind of a game. My colleague designed a game where you can understand the various functions right, in the company dealing with supply chain, how you can work together. And then from a systems engineering point of view, we have a core which talk about modeling, viewing it as a system model. Right? And then the research project usually is done in the second semester for full-time student and in the second year for part-time student. As I mentioned earlier, this is where we are linked to industry practice. Right. Now, the three different departments offer different courses. As you can see over here, IE stands for those industrial systems engineering and management module, right? So they are more engineering type, very technically focused, but give you a very good core understanding of how you can solve a problem, right? So the graduates from this program, as you can see, if you do more of the IE module, you don't have to work as a supply chain manager. You can even branch out to be a systems analyst, can be an industrial engineer, and so on. Okay. Now, in the middle there, we have a module offered by my department, right? DOS module, which is operation and supply chain module, right? We have analytical tools, which basically teach you how to use spreadsheet to model. And it's not so much about the technical solving, right? It's just click and drop, but how to consult from numbers, how you actually present a problem, you know, how to present a solution to a problem from a client and so on. Right. Then we have talking about global supply chain management. Right? It's not just a local, but it's very global. We talk about sustainability. We talk about logistics operation and procurement. And we have supply chain strategies. The strategies are derived from models. Okay. And we talk about international trade related to supply chain. So trade and finance are pretty close to put together. And then we have one course which actually in most supply chain nowadays, you talk about how to visualize your supply chain. The core of those is actually how you visualize data. You're going to get a lot of data about your inventory, about your supplies, about your transportation. So the core skill there is how to visualize all those data. So we have a data visualization module. The original title is very long, Supply Chain Visualization and Actionable Intelligence. We compact it and just call it data visualization. Now then on the right side, the last pillar is from the Logistics Institute, right? We have one module on special topics of logistics. So we talk about e-commerce logistics, how to design logistics hub, how to manage a global fleet and logistics. Yeah. And we have one on case studies on supply chain management strategies. And then we have that experiential training, which is a summer school, right? And it deals with global logistics, right? That is done in our partner university in Austria. And then the final one is using a particular software, easy to use software, where you can actually investigate the impact of certain decisions you make in supply chain and logistics on your management. Okay, so the title seems very technical, right? Supply chain simulation or optimization. The simulation, we're using a software, so it's just basically click and so on. But important in this module, different from the IE module, is to think about the management issue, the performance measure, and you want to see how the decision will affect the performance of your supply chain. So as you can see, I think related to earlier Samuel question, so you can see that we go into a very technical thing, yeah, in this program. And some of them may not be exactly what you'll be doing throughout your career, but it gives you a very wide exposure, the technical understanding of how does a supply chain function optimally. Okay, this is just to show you what we did for the summer school. So this is what has happened before. All right, we model from supplier to the customers to finally the end customer, right? So this has roughly show you a picture of the various stages of the supply chain that we go through during this summer school. Yeah. Okay. Now this is key information. All right. So the basic requirement to enter this program is the honors degree, right? In more quantitative area, right? Science, engineering, computing, mathematics, business administration, and so on. Okay. Those who have a work experience have some advantage. And if you don't have a good honors degree, like for example, you have a third class, but if you have relevant experience, we do consider. Okay. And for foreign students, you need to have a good command of the English language. So we require you to prove that with the test. Yeah? And to graduate, right, you need to get a minimum cumulative average point of 3.0. Okay, NUS grading system is a 5-point system, right? A is a 5-point, B, and so on. Right. So you get a 3-point is equivalent to getting an average grade of B minus. And the master program require you to do 40 MC modular credit, right? One module usually is 4 modular credit, and the project, the industry project is 8 MC. Okay. And you have to finish everything for a full-time student in 2 years, but most students finish in 1 year. And for part-time students, the maximum candidature is 4 years, but most part-time students finish in 2 years. Okay. And the next one is about the fees. Just to highlight that this fees is current, right? It's reviewed yearly, and it may increase, right? But at the moment is 48,000, right? Plus GST and so on. So this, as you can see, is here, all right? Per program, right? Full-time student is 51,360. And if you're accepted, if you offer admission and you accept the offer, you have to pay acceptance fee of 2,000 plus GST. So it's 2,140. Next year, this one will go up because GST will be 8%. Okay. Now, we want to encourage more citizens and PR to take up this program. So we offer fee rebate. Now, again, fee rebate is subject to university's approval. This is actually taken up from the fees that we collect for the program, right? So it will affect our revenue, and we need the university to approve. But at the moment, this is the rebate that we are offering for Singapore's citizens based on academic merit. That means your undergraduate result plus your work experience, and the admission committee assess you to be among the top, right? So Singapore citizens can get between 30% to 60% of fee rebate. So with that fee rebate, the fees the net fees you pay, including GST, will be something between 20,500 to 35,900. Yeah, not all have it. If you are on the margin, right, you're admitted on discretionary admission, then you will not be given the merit. Now, we also want to have diversity, so we also want to encourage international students to apply. So we give 30% program fee rebates among the top 10% of international students. Okay, these are some of the deadlines to take note of. So if you want to come in January, we have 2 intakes. The main intake is in August, right? And so for the August intake, usually we have this open for application in January. For the January intake, the application is open in July. Okay, so for the, if you want to come in this August, the deadline is already over. So the next best chance will be in January. Okay, so these are the dates that you should take note of. Now you don't have to worry about this. All these dates are on the website of the Logistics Institute, as you can see here. So if you want to take note of anything, you just take down this tliap.nus.edu.sg. All this information are on our website. Okay, so I've covered the bare minimum, the essential of this of a program. Now I'm open for question. You can type in your chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question. But don't worry. If you have any question, right, you can always write email to us. Right, the email is this one, right? I'll go to our website and you'll be able to find out the information, and the contact email for the executive who manage this program, right, is also on our website. Well, I see a question on the chat. Will a good GRE, GMAT score help? Okay, thanks for the question. Now, this program, we don't require a GRE and we don't require GMAT. For those who do not have an honors degree, right? We will look at how good you have done. We actually scrutinize the transcript, and then we will invite those prospectors, those who have a good prospect. We think that it can do well in our, invite them for interview, right, to further assess whether their abilities. But we don't look at GRE, we don't look at GMAT scores. Okay, John have a last minute question comes in. Do you have the not really? Okay, you don't have work experience, is okay. But academically you have to be strong. All right. Yeah, this program also cater for those who are in other discipline but wants to go into the logistics and supply chain work area, right? Then no work experience is necessary, but then you have to be very strong academically that you can do the module, right? Those who have work experience will have a better chance. Okay, we do look at the work experience. Okay, yeah, our associate director, Ms. Go Mi-Ling, has put up the website for you, right? Your email, right? Email for you to send to tlimscm@nus.edu.sg. All right, so you have further queries about this program, you can email us at tlimscm@nus.edu.sg. Okay, time passed very fast. It's already 4:45. I think this is where the session will have to end. Thank you everyone for attending this session. And I hope if it's relevant for you, for your career, in the logistics supply chain industry, please consider applying to our program. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Yeah.